Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome to you all. Thank you so much for joining us in what is the first in a new series of webinars that we'll be hosting throughout the course of this month and beyond. My name's Jimmy Pearson. I'm the Global PR Manager for ProVeg International. And I'm absolutely delighted to introduce you to Abhishek Sinha, the co-founder and CEO of Good Dot, a truly pioneering company that's developing plant-based alternatives to meat in India, one of the very first movers in the plant-based space in the region. Hi, Abhishek. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Jimmy. Thank you so much. It is an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this chat for quite a while, to be honest with you. I've read and heard nothing but wonderful things about Good Dot, not only about the products, but about the mission and the values, which, of course, align a great deal with us here at ProVeg International. And the journey you've gone on to this point, it's a great story, and I'm looking forward to you sharing this and your insights and your experience over the next 45 minutes or so. Just a bit of housekeeping for everybody before we get started. So it's a 45-minute session, and we'll chat for about half an hour, and then we'll have the remaining 15 minutes available for a Q&A. Everyone's automatically on mute, so if you want to ask a question, please use the Q&A function and submit your question in writing on there. I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll keep an eye on the time, and we'll field as many of the questions as we can to Abhishek in the time we have remaining. The webinar will also be recorded. It is being recorded, and you'll be able to watch it back via our website once it's uploaded. So let's get started. So many questions I'd like to put to you, Abhishek, and I'm sure so much that our attendees will want to know about you and the business and the plant-based market in India and everything around it. But for those of attendees less familiar with Good Dot, maybe you could kick off by telling us a bit about your current product portfolio.
Sure, Jimmy. So basically, Good Dot is a plant-based meat manufacturing company based out of India. In the market, we have around 10 SKUs, 10 different products in the market. Primarily in terms of alternative to meat, right now, we have products which are replacement of goat meat, which is mutton, and also a chicken alternative. So these are the primarily two basic products which are there. But we have, rice-based dishes, curry-based dishes, and some other chunks of meat in our portfolio, and more to come, more to follow within the next couple of months. Yes.
When I first read about Good Dot, I was fascinated and possibly a little surprised as well, mostly because India is viewed by so many of us as a mostly vegetarian country. I'm not sure if that perception is accurate, but if it is, then it would appear to be quite a pretty significant challenge for a plant-based meat company like yours. Is that accurate, and is there a big enough market for you in that region?
Yeah, Jimmy, it is a bit counterintuitive, in terms of the perception of India. It is primarily a vegetarian country, whereas the facts are somewhat different. In fact, 72% of Indians eat meat, and 28% are vegetarians. So, by and large, that's one of the largest percentage of vegetarian population in the world. And considering our population of 1.3 billion, I think the absolute numbers are phenomenal. So that probably explains the perception of India being a vegetarian country. It is a very, very interesting space for plant-based meat alternative, because the way meat is consumed outside India and what is consumed within India is quite different. For example, someone who's a meat eater, for example, in the Western part, maybe they'll have meat every day, probably all meals or most of the meals. In India, even a person who, by and large, all the persons who identify themselves as meat eaters, they would probably have 1 or 2 meals in a week as meat. So the consumption of meat is a bit less even among meat eaters, but the consumption of lentils, which is a protein dense product, is the world's largest. So plant-based meat presents a happy middle ground between meat and lentils. So it's a protein dense product, and culturally vegetarianism is ingrained in India. So most of the people who eat meat primarily eat for the taste angle. So if we are able to match the taste, I think we have a huge, very, very big market within India.
Yeah, and when you put those numbers, if you present it in that way with 1.3 billion population, it's very clear that the potential is there. How have I'm curious, how have eating patterns changed in recent times in India? Are you seeing a shift in those kind of percentages of meat consumption and things?
Yeah, actually, that percentage what I talked about, 72% of meat eating, that has increased over a period of time. So there has been a significant increase in the meat eating percentage, as well as, of course, the absolute numbers will keep on increasing. So there, in fact, the poultry consumption growth rate is one of the highest in the world in terms of the bigger countries. It is probably the top. Around 8% is the annual growth rate of poultry consumption. China has got a negative rate of from probably 6% of poultry consumption, and US has got probably 1.5% growth rate. So you can think about 1.3 billion people with this kind of, if that is the kind of growth rate. As incomes are rising, more and more people are transitioning towards meat, because that's the way it happens everywhere, right? It is seen more as a luxury item. So as affordability increases, I think the consumption increases. So we do expect this trend to continue for the time being, till that's what we want to actually arrest and try to give some plant-based alternative to people who are thinking about transitioning or who want to probably reduce the intake of meat.
Yeah, and what you're saying there completely goes against my initial view of, well, is there much need for this in India? Absolutely, there is, quite clearly.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about your background and your story, Abhishek, but
Right.
perhaps you could share with everyone else how you started out, where you were when you, and your journey to this point, I suppose.
So yeah, Jimmy, basically I'm a chemical engineer by qualification, but over a period of time I was in the Indian central or federal government service in the taxation part. We have within the core team, people from R&D, biotechnology background, protein chemistry background, finance and legal background, as well as culinary and spicing and flavoring background. So Good Dot, I'm just the face of Good Dot for the time being. It's actually a strong, very, very strong team effort for years together. So we have right now, close between two companies, Good Dot and Good Do, we have around 180 employees, and in that around 20 are core employees. So all of them have, pooled their energies and resources together and skills to make us, come this far. Yeah.
And what drives you personally, and what drives the business forward?
Animals, the ethics of the animal industry. We are, the soul of Good Dot belongs to animals. Had it not been for taking care of the ethics side of stuff, I don't think so Good Dot would have existed. We were doing well in our earlier lives and we were successful and content. We don't come from business background, so this doesn't really excite us. The commercial part of it doesn't really excite us. So what really drives us is that we can channelize the commerce to help animals. Right now we are taking care of feeding street animals on a daily basis. We are also thinking of we have already taken the land. Eventually we'll convert into a rescue sanctuary for animals. So this is what our product, with its metrics of sales linked to less meat consumption, really helps us, drives us. But at our own personal level, whatever is accruing, we are also very happy to put it back to so many animals. So if there's just one word, I think it's very front and center. There are positive externalities like environment, health, but we are all about animals.
And you're probably in a small select group of companies that have animals at the center of the ethos and the values, really.
I think we are mainstream. Everyone has animals in the center. It's just the connection has not been made. So everyone, take a child, take a man who does not love animals. It's just that the society has given us some moral blinders which we keep just to so that we can carry on our ways. But everyone is an animal lover, except some very minor percentage of people. All of us are animal lovers.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that completely. You're able to keep your price point low, and I understand that also means reasonably low profit margins. How challenging is that model been, and how determined are you to keep that as you grow?
It has been challenging. We cannot deny that because if you can charge a premium, of course you'll have a lot of spare cash to invest in branding, marketing, which really helps the sales also. So that was challenging. But every time when we have any strategic call to take, we go back to our core vision of doing it for animals. So then that is why we are going for volumes. If we make the same amount of profit by selling more products, I think we would take that any day, rather than selling less products at a huge margin but coming to the same profit. So in a way it was difficult, because you won't have a lot of free cash for through internal accruals to put it back into the marketing and branding. But it helped us penetrate the market and easy acceptance of the product, because a lot of people are open to trying out products if it is affordably priced. So that was our right from the day one. Taste was the first thing what we were trying to, and then once we thought that we have achieved that thing, and of course there's always an eternal work going on there, but then we tried to cut down on the costs. So these were the two parameters.
Yeah, I think we probably share the view that taste, price, and accessibility are some of the key drivers of dietary choices. And if you're able to deliver a product that competes on those three fronts, then you've got a real chance of big change.
Absolutely. And I would say, Jimmy, taste and price are the key drivers. Once you have the taste and price, there will be support from both investors as well as consumers, that accessibility can be created. So because accessibility is linked to scale, right? And where do you reach? And that might, for a lot of startups, that might be a challenge. How are you accessible to all the nooks and corners? Just focus on taste and price. The rest will take care of itself.
Well, that combination of taste and the right price seems that elusive combination, and it's not something we're necessarily seeing from other entrants to the market, where the taste and texture is good, but the price point is higher than you'd like it to be.
You see, what, it all depends, because there's no plug and play format in plant-based meat. Every company has come up with different, maybe even equipments, customized equipments, formulations, and end product. So it all depends. Sorry. Hello. Sorry, am I there?
It's okay. We're still here.
Okay. So so that's why we think that taste and price are going to be the predominant factor, and that's the challenge. The consumers don't owe it to us to shift to those kind of products. So this is where the hard work of all the global companies come into play. We do have an advantage of being in a country where the costs are pretty low as compared to more the developed countries. So the loading of the cost on the end product is lesser. But even then, you have to have some interesting formulation and work on the product as well as equipment. So we have done all the chain, and we have been fortunate enough to probably crack that, and we are not resting. I think there is still scope to even go further down, and we are working on that.
Fantastic. It's great to hear. Going back going back a few years, and how you set up this operation. Talk us a little bit about funding. How challenging was that, and what obstacles did you face at the early stages?
So funding was, and it still is quite a challenge for many companies, especially now that category has got a lot of validation, international validation. I think there are a lot of more active incoming requests which is coming through. So for younger startups, I think things are much more easy as compared to when we started out. We were very fortunate enough to count among our friends and family a couple of high net worth individuals who did not have an idea about the business or the product, but they knew us. So they didn't invest in the idea, they invested in us. And secondly, also apart from those core group invested most of the money, we also had an investment from New Crop Capital, which is a US-based venture capital fund. That was a seed funding. So that was also helpful. So overall, thankfully for us, it was not that difficult. Now, of course, now when we look to scale the operation up really high, I think now we are getting into more serious discussion for a larger fundraise. So those things are, but the market is much more open now. I would say it's easy right now. You just need to work hard.
Yeah, good advice.
Yeah.
Determining your product portfolio, how challenging was that? And how much market research went into it, and how reliant on it were you?
So I have been an ex meat eater myself, right? I left it 8 years back. So I know what the craving. So in India, primarily there are, if we talk about meat, there are three main meat consumption. Poultry or the chicken is by far the most consumed meat.
Yeah,
Closely, that is followed by goat meat, lamb. It's more like a mutton, which is
yeah,
called mutton, goat meat, and of course fish. Fish is a different seafood category altogether. Um, you see, chicken has got a lower price point, right? And mutton is seen as more of a costlier meat. So that was one thing where we needed to have some buffer in terms of pricing. So goat meat was one interesting aspect. And another thing is with goat meat is that goats are not reared in large farms. They're not amenable to be reared in large farms. So they're quite disorganized. So thereby the price variation in goat meat is, it can be from maybe 450 rupees in North India to 1200 rupees or 1000 rupees in South India. So it is quite disorganized. So we thought, that's an interesting play if we could do it. And honestly enough, we started working on it, and through numerous trial and error, we thought we are getting closer to goat meat as compared to chicken. Now we are coming up with a very amazing chicken alternative very, very soon. We feel that this is one of our strongest products going ahead in the market. So we'll be launching that pretty soon.
exciting. And
Yeah.
further ahead, are there any other products that you've got in the pipeline, even if they're at an early stage of development?
We have already developed tuna, plant-based tuna. So that has been developed. We have worked upon beef steak bites. Those have been developed. There are some other fish alternatives are in an advanced level of completion. Those are, so we are working on that. Then these are the three core products. Two are already there. The third is we are going to close it in the coming months. Two we have already closed the development, and we feel they're pretty good. Yeah.
Great. I'm fascinated by language, particularly in the context of marketing, and so I'm just keen to understand your strategy a little bit. And I know that, I think you previously used the word meat as on your in your marketing on products, but not anymore. And I'm curious whether you're using the term vegetarian, vegan, plant-based. What's your preferred approach?
So you're right. We call our products vegan. We happen to be plant-based, but we are vegan. So as I said, ethics drives us. So we don't shy away from using the word vegan. Now coming to our earliest strategy, see, we whatever money we raised went into R&D, setting our own factory. We didn't have a lot of spare money to go for creating a category in a totally unaware market like India. So that is why initially we went with the term vegetarian meat. It was more generic. So either people will get fascinated or will rather ridicule the name. But at least they will notice the name. What the hell? There's a joke in India which goes like, there's nothing called vegetarian meat. People ridicule others. For example, there's a dish called biryani, which is a rice-based dish. People say there cannot be any vegetarian biryani. It has to be having meat in it. So vegetarian biryani to them is a misnomer. So the same way vegetarian meat created, we thought can be a good eye-catching phenomena. Once the public is educated about our product and offering, we thought that once we go into a market, when educate the market, we will go away from the word meat, because meat has to be dislodged from being the gold standard. We are better than meat in taste, price, and ethics, as well as health point of view, environment. Why to rely on the crutches of meat? uh, Plant-based meat, and it's continuously evolving. All the companies are working on their product profile, nutritional profile, and everything. So overall, over a period of time, many of these products will become better than meat. So why do you have to put the term meat as a gold standard? We don't want to. And again, going back to the ethics of it, we don't want meat to be an aspirational product. But yeah, initially to educate the masses where you are not available or visible, I think you can use the word as plant-based chicken, plant-based mutton, plant-based beef. But once it is saturated and people know it, I think it's time to get away from the term meat.
Yeah, I think that's a persuasive argument around removing meat as the gold standard. I'm persuaded in that. Talk a little bit about ingredients. The trend towards clean labels, and your products have a longer ingredients list, and I know there are a number of spices and spices included on there, which extends the list. Do you have any aspirations to shorten your ingredients list?
Yeah, you're right. Most of it are spices. So if you look, 8 or 10 of them are spices, just a regular natural spices. But yeah, we have plans to even reduce it. But most of the products what we use are clean label, in the sense that it's just soy protein, wheat protein, or maybe pea protein, maybe gram flour, quinoa flour. So these are not like, even though they are extended, but if you look into, if you read the label, individual ingredients, most of the products won't have any super processed or artificial additive. So those won't be there. And then again, our products are shelf stable at ambient temperature with zero preservative. They are shelf stable for 1 year, so it can be stored, transported, and kept for 1 year. So that is again a distinct advantage to mass acceptance of our products.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that comes neatly onto distribution and supply, which is what I wanted to talk about next. I think everyone probably keen to know what challenges you faced, and whether the COVID crisis how has it impacted you in terms of distribution and supply?
So there are two aspects of our core work. One, the company is Good Dot Enterprises, which manufacture the food product. Then there's another company which is Good Dot Foods, which is into fast food outlets, vegan fast food outlets. We have opened close to 10 outlets in the past few months, like past year or so. So of course the outlets business was hit because of the regulatory framework. The outlets were not allowed to be operated. Now they are back on track, so which is good. So, and even our online sales, because again, the deliveries were impacted because India was in extended lockdown all across the country for close to 2.5 months. So online sales were impacted, but our own brick and mortar distribution doubled. And overall sale numbers during Corona months and post-Corona months have doubled, even when we take into account the hits we got from, say, a lack of online sale or the Good Do outlets operation. Despite that, our overall sale doubled, and we made no additional efforts for that. It was just the flow of the events. Like, people are looking for more plant-based alternatives. The hygiene issues comes into prominence in meat industry. So that really helped us, and now riding on that wave, we are planning some interesting strategy as to how we can make the most of the current awareness level.
And are there any other opportunities that the current situation has presented to you?
Definitely. As I said, a lot of institutions who have started reaching out to us. Now a lot of companies who are into food and beverage space, even some of the bigger chains, now they have realized that this is a consumer demand which is asking for these kind of products. So we are getting a lot of organic requests. Earlier we would scout for those requests. Now we are dealing with an incoming flurry of requests. So those are distinct opportunities, not just in India, even outside India. Because now people are scouting globally. The market is maturing, and people are looking at options. And there are only so many players. So there is a gap between supply and demand. People are looking for the options, but you have to give them those solutions. So if people are again, because of, as you said, right now I need not have been in Berlin. I can speak to you right now. I can speak to someone in Brazil. I can speak to someone in Africa, and all those conversations have been just opened up. And people are much more comfortable interacting online and taking calls and decisions. So you can maximize the work, do more outreach. So I think it presents a very, very interesting opportunity for newer companies.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. On the flip side, other challenges that you face, what have, aside from the COVID crisis, what are the major challenges that you've faced in the last few years or the history of the company?
I think when I look back, those challenges were, in the right case, were really good. They were there. At that time, for example, we were looking at funding. We thought that we are ready for a big scale up at that moment of time, but the market was not so mature, and thereby, a lot of investor confidence and we didn't have a lot of diversification of our own channel mix. We are selling in our some online sales and our own distribution channel. So now those diversifications are happening, exports are opening up. And if we had, raised those funds at that moment of time, we would not have a depth of product, because once you raise funds, you go more into branding and marketing, because then it becomes a game of numbers. You have to give them returns. But thankfully, it's not that we didn't have those discussions. It's not that, we even been extended some term sheets and all, but things didn't work out eventually. So that was a blessing in disguise. And now we feel we are much more ready. Earlier we were not. So, but at that time the challenge was raising fund, and we did feel that, why not, anyone is seeing the opportunity, we are just there to go. But I think it was a blessing in disguise for us.
Yeah. And if you had one piece of advice for a startup or somebody with a great idea, what single piece of advice would it be? Not an easy question.
You know what, I will give, I don't lay a claim that I know everything and every situation my advice is applicable, but I'm just giving what I did and it worked for me. Maybe it might work for others. Don't try to copy anyone. If you have to really, be successful, first link it to your calling. Does it really excite you, or is it about money? If it is about money, then the stresses will put you down, and it's always stressful, right? So first of all, just go back to the basic question, the why. Why do you want to do this? Or would you rather do something else which really excites you? So first you do that. Once you identify your area of interest and you want to go into entrepreneurship, then look at a need which is unmet, which is real, and which is scalable. And for that, I'll give you a piece of advice, or the youngsters a piece of advice. Think of yourself as an objective, dispassionate consumer. What do you need which is not there in the market? Maybe you might need a plant-based beef, you might need an affordable, super affordable, protein or anything, or maybe a premium caviar, I don't know. Think of you as a consumer and see the gap. Don't try to be, another of the bigger companies, because they have encashed that opportunity. There cannot be another duplicate of that company. You can be better and bigger than that if you follow your own original path. So try to be original, try to search for your why, and be pragmatic. You have to be driven by passion, but once you decide to go for any particular scope, then put yourself as a dispassionate consumer. Don't be swayed by your value system.
I like that answer a lot, I have to say.
Thanks.
And what about your plans for expansion? What's the vision?
Yeah. So there are two aspects to it. There are a HoReCa segment. The institutional. I think a lot of good interests have come through. Some interesting announcements will come through. So that is one channel. I'm talking about domestic and diversification of our own sales channel, which we are doing it right now. Online again, post Corona, we have seen that without doing anything, there has been a steep increase in online. So whether it was a pent up demand, I don't know. We just blew up once the Amazon and our product being shelf stable, we can do online very easily anywhere in India. So I think that is one area we'll focus on. So that pertains to India. And now we are also very, very interested, and a lot of exciting tie-ups are happening for exports out of India. We think our products have been validated in a lot of international events, and now Canada is going to start pretty soon. So we are even working on some other country, 3 or 4 different countries across different continents. You will see some of those announcements coming soon. So I think that will be also our focus area moving ahead.
Exciting times ahead,
yeah,
no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we've I suppose we've pretty much come to the end of the half-an-hour chat we had allocated. We've had a question coming in. I'm not sure how many we've had. I'm just going to take a look at these now. Yes, question from Kritika, which is my question for Abhishek is, how is the demand looking like during the COVID lockdown? Do you think people are able to make the relationship between COVID-19 and their patterns of meat consumption?
Absolutely. We have made no extra effort to increase our visibility. but we have seen a spike in demand, both uh, offline as well as online. And I don't see any reason, because we have not made any efforts towards that, and that has happened organically. So that really explains that, people are more health conscious, and probably looking to diversify their protein mix. Yeah.
Great. Got another question coming in just as you answer that one. Hi Abhishek. This is a question here. Are your products available all over the country? And if so, how did you get there? And what challenges did you face in placing them in stores and fast food outlets?
Yeah, sure. Our products are all over India, even if you name it, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the north to south to east to west. And that is not something which we can we can claim the credit of. It is our distribution channel, RCM. RCM is like a direct selling network. They have 7,500 stores across India, and even in tier 2, tier 3 cities, some even in villages. So because of them, we have been fairly lucky to be present all over India. So that was the easy part. So that explains how. And now again, Amazon, we are servicing all over India. Our own website, we are servicing all over India orders. So because of shelf stability of our products, we are able to do that.
Great. And the next part of the same question is, how are your sales distributed between online, retail, and food outlets?
So the food outlets are pretty new. The 8-10 outlets what we are seeing, and even HoReCa segment, right from 5 stars, for example, Leela and ITC, Taj, Trident, all of them have some of their Sofitel. Those properties have started taking products from us. So that is significantly increasing. Initially, I would say pre-corona, most of our sales happen through the distribution channel, but now that mix is changing, with online actually now coming in. But still it is lagging behind our distribution channel, because this distribution channel has been activated for 2.5 odd years. So we are in all those stores. But we expect that to be almost equal in the next 6 to 8 months.
Great, thank you, Abhishek. Yeah. There's one more question that's coming in,
sure,
which is relating to frozen foods. What's your take on plant-based frozen foods?
I think sorry, hold on. Hello. I'm
Hi.
sorry. Yeah,
it's okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So basically, I think frozen food has got a very interesting market because what the advantage of frozen food is that you can take the product in the closest form where they are about to cook the product. So in the shelf stable product, we are coming out with curries and all, which we don't have to cook. But earlier, when we came up with the initial products, it was ready to cook. So we learned from that. We got great responses, but we got some negative responses also, because people are not able to cook it the way it should have been cooked. So frozen products take that thing out of equation. Now we are taking, in our own development, we are taking ambient products also, in a ready to cook format. But frozen food, I think in the modern trade, in the metros, I think there's a big demand. Even the HoReCa, institutional segment, frozen food can be pretty good. But yeah, you have to be very selective in your targeting and your product choice. So it has to be targeted to particular sector or particular urban blocks rather than pan India.
Thank you, Abhishek. The questions are coming in, which is great. I think the next question is, thinking about expansion. It's a really good question, this actually. Do you plan to adjust flavour, texture and product range according to local preferences in the different countries?
Yeah, absolutely. We will be doing that. In fact, the veg chicken, what we are going to launch is more of a cooked chicken product, which is you can put it directly in salads, you can put it in pizza toppings, sandwiches, or so that's a very generic product, doesn't require any tinkering. But in terms of finished products like curries, like we can come up with a chicken stroganoff, we can come with a chicken noodle soup. So those, we have been working on that, and those are lemon and herb chicken. So we are going to customize the finished product as per the local requirement. The base product, with the newer base products, I think this is just a chicken chunk, which is anywhere, and people can cook it the way they wish to. So it will be a mix of both. The base products will not tinker, but the final products, yes, we'll customize it as per the local market requirements.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Abhishek. I think that is all the questions that have come in so far. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And I'm sure that everyone watching and listening will have really enjoyed that. So thank you very much.
No, Jimmy, thank you so much. And thank you to Katie and the team at ProVeg for, giving me opportunity to speak to you guys. And it is an exciting space and we are in it together. And it's so enthralling to see everyone, doing so amazing all across.
Fantastic. Well, just a couple of quick points before we sign off. Most of you attending will be aware of the new food conference that ProVeg hosts, and we're delighted to announce the new dates. So the new food conference is the Europe's leading conference on alternative protein, and that's going to be on the 28th and 29th of April next year, 2021. And also for those of you who have not yet read our European consumer survey on plant-based food, that's available on our website, where we surveyed 6,000 consumers across 9 different countries. And as of very recently, we've now got country-specific reports for each of those 9 countries. So if that's of interest, then please visit our website. And then, thank you again, Abhishek, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks, Jimmy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.